We've got an intense Week 13 matchup with major playoff implications on the line. I think I can speak for everybody that preseason, no one expected that this Week 13 matchup between the Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans have major playoff implications. Also, too, I think they both have the same record, if I'm not mistaken, both at 6-5.
Yeah.
I probably don't think anybody had either team winning 6 games this season, especially not the Texans. Broncos, I think I remember we talked about it, like on paper. It's like, well, I mean, this team should be decent, but
Yeah.
they're on a 5-game winning streak, and we were just talking about it. 5 impressive wins. Probably their win today might have been the least impressive, just because they were going up against a second-string quarterback, then a third-string quarterback in PJ Walker after DTR got hurt. But still, the Packers. It was Packers, Chiefs, Bills, Vikings, and then Browns. All wins. Bills was on the road, and so getting good tiebreaker wins going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who are a Super Bowl contender, one of the best teams in the league. So this is going to be a major game for both teams. Texans coming off a tough loss, but I would say it's one of those. If there was ever a good loss, I feel like this would be a good loss. Against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Really fought hard, came down. I mean, literally just 1 inch short of making that 58-yard field goal and sending it to overtime. But I thought the team looked great. I mean, I thought Jacksonville looked great as well. Just a grinded out game. No turnovers at all. CJ Stroud threw for over 300 yards. Ryan, what's your overall thoughts on these two teams that I think we both can admit that did not give any chance whatsoever to potentially make the playoffs?
It's going to be a really interesting game. The Broncos have done a really good job of keeping all these games close as of late and just kind of eking out a low-scoring game, right? That's what they did against the Vikings, the Chiefs. I think they won like 24-9, and so that's been the widest margin of any of their victories so far. And so the Texans, I think, have kind of been on the other side of that. When they tend to win, they win big, and then they have, what is that? 1, 2. Okay, I misspoke. 4 of their wins are by one score, 2 of which were by a touchdown. And then the other 2 were by a field goal. So, both these teams are really good. The Broncos, I think, have really turned it around in just the sense of they're not shooting themselves in the foot. I still don't think that they're as explosive on the offensive side of the ball as they could be. One of the big signs of that is Russell Wilson's stats. I think he's only averaging 205 passes for 265 yards. So he's barely averaging 10 yards a completion when you really want to be averaging about 10-ish yards per attempt, right? And so that for me is just a really big sign that they're still playing close to the line of scrimmage. They're still not quite pushing the ball down the field and as explosive as they can be. With that being said, there have been some highlight reel plays, especially by Cortland Sutton. As of late, he had the catch in the Buffalo game, on the side of the end zone. Then he had the one-hander, and then the game winner against the Vikings on Monday Night Football a couple weeks ago. So, they're definitely making big plays. They're just not consistent enough for me to consider them like an explosive offense. Whereas the Houston Texans are one of the worst running football teams in the NFL, but CJ Stroud is having such a good year, and in Tank Dell and Nico Collins and John Mechie, they've all been really good for them. And this passing offense is just so explosive. And I don't think anyone has ever been so quick to induct anyone into the Hall of Fame, but CJ Stroud looks like he could be well on his way after the start to the season that he's had, or start to his career that he's had.
We're going to want to clip that either way. When he does make it, you're like, hey, you heard it here first. And then when he is awful after this. I'll have to keep bringing that up over and over again. No. But
people are already talking about how much money he's going to get in a contract extension, and I'm like, we're 11 games into his career.
No. He looks extremely good, and it's interesting too because it's like when you look at this game, it's like I couldn't think of a game where, at least this week, where it's the records are so close, but the teams are both so opposite. It feels like one of the worst teams when it comes to overall passing offense throughout the league, while the Houston Texans are one of the top. The defensively, I would say that's where they're kind of similar. Actually, I guess more where they're both so different is on the offensive side of the ball. And defensively, I think there's some uniqueness to both sides. I think like Derek Stingley Jr. and then you have Pat Surtain on the other side. Pat Surtain still is one of the best cornerbacks in my league. I think he's
Derek Stingley, not on
No.
Patrick Surtain's level, but Derek Stingley is still very good.
Absolutely. I'm not saying anything bad about him at all. I am just saying it's like they have their star corner. The Denver Broncos defense, especially getting after the QB, has picked up a lot, just increasing a little bit overall within their pass protection. I feel like that's where not pass protection, pass defense. And though they still do give up a lot of yards, but I feel like lately during this winning streak, they've been getting after the quarterback a little bit more, increasing their pressure rate. So, but when it comes offensively, though, Texans are struggling to run the ball, but Denver has actually picked up the pace a little bit when it does come to their running offense. I want to double check this here, but they have been eking their way up the overall like team offense, like when it comes to rushing yards per game. They're now sitting in the middle of the road. And even today against this Browns defense, they ran for 169 yards. Jonathan Williams and Samaje Perine both had 65 and 55 rushing yards collectively. I'm not great at math, but that's 120 rushing yards just between the two players right there on 25 rushes. So that's pretty good. Actually, that's very good. So
definitely.
I would take that every single week. So that's where it's going to be interesting. Just how Denver is just going to be able to manufacture their drives, like how they were able to do today. They had several 80-yard touchdown drives, which something that they weren't able to do last year. So they play a much more kind of gritty, almost kind of Tennessee Titans-esque from a couple years ago style of football. While the Texans, I mean, they can spread it out. Then you get your star quarterback who can just sling it, throw for over 300 yards, like it's nothing. So it's going to be very interesting how this game breaks down.
Yeah. And that is one thing. I think Will Anderson, that'll be a really key matchup to watch just because this Broncos offensive line is giving up one of the highest pressure rates in the league at the moment. And they've been better on this winning streak, but still not great. There was one thing in the Bills win that actually stood out to me was just kind of how much Russell Wilson was running for his life. And it's not really like the Bills have elite edge rushers. I mean, they have Greg Rousseau, who's a former first-round pick, but he was more of an athlete than like a truly polished edge rusher coming out of Miami. And they've done a good job with him, but still not he's not a world beater on the edge. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Let's go ahead and get into our picks here. So but before we do that, if you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Tyler and I are trying to get to 2,333 subscribers. That would put us at 2,000 subscribers in a calendar year. So if you could help us reach that goal, that would be very much appreciated. Tyler, I'm going to throw it over to you. Who do you have coming out ahead in this matchup?
So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to go with the younger team. I'm going to go with Houston. Okay. I just feel like Denver, if they get behind early, like if Houston gets the ball first, they go down, score a touchdown. Denver drives, then they kick a field goal, 7-3. But then Houston gets the ball again, goes down, and now it's 14-3. And at this point, you're probably end of the first, or maybe like 5 minutes into the second quarter. I know there's still a lot of football left to be played, but I feel like in that scenario, I find it difficult for the Broncos to come back just because they're not able to throw the ball nearly as effectively as C.J. Stroud. Denver does also then, on top of that, have one of the weaker running defenses. So even though the Texans aren't statistically the best runners, I think they might be a little bit more effective with Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary. Especially Singletary had a couple of good weeks in a row where he rushed near 100 yards, but then Dameon Pierce came back today and they were actually splitting carries. So I'm curious if they might have Devin Singletary be more of the main guy moving forward, especially in this game. But we'll have to see. The Broncos, though, on the flip, let's say in that reverse happens, they get up 14-3 halfway through the second. I still feel comfortable, like if C.J. Stroud is able to come back and win in a shootout. And so that's where I feel like the Texans have more avenues to go and win, while the Broncos need it to be kind of a gritty, grinded out kind of nasty type game. Create turnovers and hopefully don't give up as many turnovers as you said earlier. Russell Wilson's been protecting the ball really well. That to me is why I'm going to be leaning towards Houston. It's going to be very unique, though. I mean, this is completely unexpected for both of these franchises to be in this much of a meaningful game in Week 13. So, but it's going to be fun to watch. I think it's good to see Denver take those strides forward. It was fun to make fun of them while it was lasting, and so. But I think it's a good kind of redemption story as well that the NFL's looking forward to. Just like how if Aaron Rodgers comes back, that's not going to happen though. But I'm just joking around. Houston's going to win. I'm going to say I will think it's going to be like 31-17.
Okay, I'm actually going to go with the Broncos here. I think they're riding on a little bit of a high. They looked pretty good against the Browns today. Just defensively, I know they were going against DTR, but I don't know. I don't know if that game really changes that much. If Deshaun Watson plays, like maybe the Browns are better. But I still think Denver ends up coming out ahead. And this offense being able to put up 29 points against this Cleveland defense, which I think is much more well-rounded than this Houston defense, because right now I think they have two main pieces, and that's Will Anderson, Derek Stingley Jr. And everybody else is kind of still from that older team, and not, I think, the guys that D'Amico Ryans wants in there. And so for me, I think this offense will carry over, and I think the numbers on this Denver defense are a little skewed towards the beginning of the year, simply because they I think they started out 1-4,
1-5. They started out 1-5.
Yeah, 1-5, and it was they gave up 35 to the Commanders, 70 to the Dolphins, 31 to the Jets. And then since then, they've only given up 19, 17, 9, 22, 20, and 12. So, this defense has really stepped it up in the, I don't say second half of the season, but the second half of their first 11 games. So, that for me is just going to be a big thing coming into this matchup. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos here.
I like it. It's going to be good either way. This is going to be a fun time. Last game this will be the first game in December. So December football, it's always crunch time, and so it's going to be a good. It's going to be a good weekend. Week 13 is going to be a good week.
Yeah. So we disagree on this one. You're going with the Texans. I'm going with the Broncos. Let's go ahead and wrap this video up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It is the best way to help out the channel. Tyler and I are trying to get to 2,333 subscribers to get to 2,000 subscribers within a calendar year. So if you could help us reach that goal, that would be very much appreciated. While you're down there, please go ahead, leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead in this matchup. Is it going to be the Houston Texans? Is it going to be the Denver Broncos? And other than that, we will see you guys next time.